Alright, so I thought a video might be helpful because I have kind of a cheapskate way of doing my English paper piecing. Not cheapskate, an affordable way so that I can spend money on really nice quality quilter's cottons instead of cheap fabric. So this is the book that I'm using, The Farmer's Wife Quilt Sampler. And it's really sweet. All of these come from the 1920s. I would argue that there are some from the 1930s, but that's okay. So anyway, in the front of this, there are the letters the farmers' wives had, and then the patterns are in the back. I would say more like the layouts. This is the 1920s, or just the farmer's wife sampler quilt. What the bummer is about this book is the CD that is in the back, normally, because it's in my computer probably now. The templates are only one template per 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So this piece here is just one, so you'd have to print 2 pieces of paper, or and then, you know, all of these ones, because you need 1 piece of paper for each piece of fabric that you'll be stitching together. So the bummer about this one is that, about this 1920s one, in the 1930s book they have fixed that, but in the 1920s they did not, or the 1920s book, I should say. They didn't fix it. So what I'm using instead is I'm using foundation paper pieces for English paper piecing, if that is clear like mud. And the reason is, let me get a pointy object, is that the sew line for the foundation paper pieces fits the same size as the cut size for the paper. Okay, so the cut size for paper is slightly smaller because you don't have your seam allowances for these as you would, like here, this is showing what your seam allowance would be. So I'm using the foundation paper piece instead of using it for FPP. I'm using it for EPP. E being English. Okay, so just to give you an idea of what this block looks like, it's this honeycomb one, and I'll be using kind of something similar. I think I might change it a little bit. What I am going to do is I'm going to join these together, and then I'm going to make these diamonds, so I'll join those together here. I'll use this. I'll probably just tape them, and then I'll tape these to create one hexagon, because with the English paper piecing, it completely eliminates the trickiness of Y seams. So that is the first part. Okay, so you have your pattern. Now for the second part, what I do, hopefully you can see where I am cutting, is I have the template lined up, or my ruler lined up with the solid bold line of the paper piece. So this one is going to require just a little bit more thinking, just because of that I want to join these, because I want to have less sewing. Alright, so this is the one that I want to join together. So I will cut this one, and then give you the next example. So what you can see is that I'm trimming off all of the FPP seam allowances, because I'm not going to use them. All I need is just this little piece. All right, where did my, so I didn't quite think through all the colors that I want to use. So I know that this one is going to be the hexagon, and I know that it is going to go in a dark area. I was going to use this beautiful lightning bug, but I think it's going to be a little bit too busy for the background. So I think I'm going to use this. I think that'll be, this is a gradient quilt, so I don't want too much of contrast. If I can spit out the words. Okay, so I'm looking for just this little bit because this is going to be my background fabric. And I kind of do want to pay attention to this one. Generally I don't. And it's okay if you have, generally it's okay to not pay a lot of attention, but I feel like I need to maybe pay a little bit more attention because I'm showing you how to do this. Rather than just being inside of my head. So normally what I would do is I would cut out all of my background pieces and then I would arrange them. So I would put another one right here, then I would cut and cut here. But for the sake of this video, pardon my elephants running down the stairs. Okay, so we have this here. And I'm using this Creative Grids ruler, and so this is a 1/4 inch to this dotted line, and then I know that these ones are 3/8. I really like using a 3/8 seam allowance, and you don't have to be really exact. So I kind of, you can see that it's not really exactly 3/8, kind of an eyeball, and that's it. That's all you'll do for that. Sometimes I like to trim off the tails a little bit so I don't have a whole lot of extra. So then I use school glue. I buy these when they're on sale because they're so much cheaper. I think I try to get them when they're about $4 for $1. I like this one better than the purple Elmer's. This one just glues a lot better, I think. And also be careful, especially in Colorado, since the air is so dry, that the sticks dry out a lot faster. So sometimes if I have a whole bunch, I'll set it on my lap desk. Oh, I should show you my lap desk. When I'm piecing at night, I use, oh, you can't see it, shoot, I'll have to try to show. It's just a little lap desk. And it's large enough that it just sits on my lap, and so then I put this on top, and then I have all of my pieces of fabric and the paper, and then I can listen to TV and glue these down as well. So there's not really a lot of science that goes into this. It's very artistic. So with triangles, though, a secret, I actually have a couple tips is what I'm trying to say, tips for triangles, is I glue the long end down first most of the time, but I keep in mind where my seam and my outside seam is. So the reason I chose it this way is because the long end is going to attach here. Maybe this is a better one to show. The long end will attach here, and this will be my outside seam. I'm grabbing a block so you can see. So, like this is the inside seam, and then this would be the outside. Because this is going to be inside of quilting on top, this part doesn't matter. I just want to make sure that I lift it, because the way I'm constructing this one is a quilt as you go, so I need to make sure that I have this seam allowance. I have enough room. That's why I use a larger seam allowance than 1/4 of an inch. So then I make sure that I have enough room over here. And so I kind of try to keep in mind if this is an outside outside triangle or an inside triangle. If it's an inside triangle, it doesn't really matter. So then I would take the next piece, or the next little leg, and a lot of videos will say use less glue, and I kind of wonder if it's because they are at sea level, or they have a lot of moisture. That's maybe what I mean more. A lot of moisture in the air, and I notice that as these dry out, I need more glue. And I try to rotate the glue so that I have a little bit of a pointy end. So then what I'm going to do is I am going to take this right here on that seam allowance. I'm going to be a little bit fed. And these are going to be on the outside, so I just want the hexagons on the inside and then the half hexagon on the outside, just because I want less pieces. And normally I would press this, however I can't have my iron and my space heater running at the same time. And right now the priority is the space heater. So this is one that I will do on top because it is symmetrical. If it is asymmetrical, then that's one that you do want to pay attention to. And you can see that it's not quite exact. Let's see if I can zoom in. Yep. You can see that it's not super exact, and that's okay. All I am looking for is I just need to cut the shape out right now. The other thing that I could do is, maybe I will do this. That'll give me a little bit more. Unless I'm fussy cutting, which I really do love fussy cutting, but this one isn't one that, maybe for the center ones, I might fussy cut those. And if you aren't familiar with that, it means that you're cutting out a particular design, and that's why I have all these other tape marks. Oops, you can't see that. Alright. So, still because these are symmetrical, I'm not super worried about it being cut on the top of the fabric as opposed to the bottom of the fabric. But for the last triangle, I was more concerned. So where I'm going to measure this up is with this line here on that raw edge, and then I will cut it here, and I just want to make sure that I'm going to have roughly between 1/4 inch and 3/8 of an inch between the two. For the seam allowance, if that made sense. I hope it did. Alright, and for the sake of demonstration, I'm only going to do just this one, so then I can show you how they match up. Sometimes for these larger pieces I will put just a little bit of glue. I have heard that some people have a hard time with the glue showing through. I would imagine, especially if it's if the glue has been sitting for a longer period of time, that would probably be true. Okay, so for this one, what I'm going to choose to do is start with a shorter end. I have to remember to share my secrets about triangles. Okay, So then what I do is I just work my way around. And the advantage to doing it this way is you are alternating where the tails go. So then they'll nest really nicely on the back side. Sometimes they work out really well and sometimes they don't, but basically like these ones nested really, really nicely. And then not all of them do, but you want it to be as flat as possible. This one is a little bit bunchy, but sometimes seams just like to go wherever they want to go. Okay, so now I need to grab some little wonder clips. These are little clippies that I get on Amazon. I think I bought 100 of them for maybe $10. Now the bummer is I can't show, I didn't bring my little travel kit down. I left all my needles upstairs. I will show you the thread that I use. Okay, oops. So I use Aurifil 50 weight thread. I think this is cotton. I just heard about some new Pima cotton, which might be really nice, but I really like this. I use this for my piecing. The 50 weight is a really nice thin thread. The other thing that is really, really helpful, let me move this out of the way. I will show you my little travel kit. This makes my life a lot easier. This is one that I made to fit all of the things that I need. So I have my little clips in here, but I was just using nothing fancy before. I just decided that I needed something fancier. You will need a seam ripper. Make sure that you have a seam ripper in my little